It's that time again. We had about exactly 3 weeks with no birds. It's been nice having some extra downtime. We'd gotten into a cycle there for a while where we didn't have more than 14 days. So having 21-day downtime felt like vacation. Birds are coming back today. We've actually gotten a few houses back already. This is my last house to get back today, and then we'll be getting almost 2 full houses of Eric's today, and then later this week he'll be getting the rest of his birds. So since it's warm out, we're doing what we call full house brood. We'll be dumping the chickens front to back. I've got all the heat on. It's a nice 92 degrees inside here, so nice and warm for the birds to start out. But we won't be doing a turnout this flock. A turnout is where when we have birds in half the house, after about 7 or 8 days, you run some of those birds into the back of the house. So where I'm standing now is about the middle of the house. This is the curtain. We won't be using it this time though, because we're doing full house brood. So I got fan cycling, got everything ready. We went through yesterday. One of the final things we did was putting some paper under our water lines. That's one of those things that Pilgrims is requiring right now. This honestly, I feel like a waste of time, but for those of you poultry growers that do put the paper down, what's your opinion on it? You have to put it down. Do you put it down by choice? Do you think it helps? Do you think it doesn't help? Let me know what you think. So I've had some messages just about different stuff and the different stuff we do in the poultry houses. Y'all probably seen before that we put turbo feeders down. So since we're doing full house brood, we don't have every one of them out. We cut back just a little bit since there won't be as many chickens starting out in this front half. But I'm gonna show you, somebody was asking how we hang those on the wall, and they're a little bit dusty, but we've got 2 strings. There's an open spot. So we just pretty much tied some waterline string, put staples on each post, and then we just slide them in there when we're done with them. We put them in there facing that direction. That way throughout the flock, as the air's blowing, there's dust, it doesn't get as dirty down inside. That's how we store those. I've seen a couple of other different ways you can store them. Some people have them set up on a winch, which I feel like that would be nice, but we like to go through and blow our houses down. And so I feel like they'd be in the way if you did that. So just I've gotten my water turned on. I'm gonna try to get a little bit of some footage of us dumping the birds, if you haven't seen that before. This house is gonna be getting right at about 30,000 birds, so 15,000 in the back, 15,000 in the front. So not quite 92 degrees, but close. So while we wait on that last delivery of birds, go check on the house that I already got. So these birds were dumped probably about 2 hours ago. So the theory with the waterline paper is the birds, when they step on it, you can hear it, and birds are attracted to sound. So if the birds start stepping on it, then more birds are more likely to go towards it and find the water. The main thing that you want the chickens to find as soon as possible is water. They don't necessarily have to find the feed today, which is not hard. We have some extra trays out that we supplement with, and the birds really tend to like that. One nice thing about those trays is that feed, it gets nice and warm when the brooders are running, and so I think the birds like that as much as they do the feed. But I'm gonna go get ready to dump some more birds, and we'll go over a couple more things. we got that house in. It's a little warm in there. It gets rough in the wintertime when you're in those chicken houses and it's 92 degrees and there's not really any air movement because your fans aren't running much. And then you come back outside and it's 25 degrees. So in and out of those hot chicken houses gets old. But this time of year, we just leave the indoors open. The forklift comes in and out 3 times in our houses, so they bring in about 10,000 birds at a time. We dump those like you just saw in the video, and then mostly we dump them between the water line, the inside water line and the feed line, and then the birds will start spreading out, finding the feed, finding the water. They'll be running around here shortly, but we're gonna head up to Eric's farm and get some of his birds dumped. I'm gonna go over some water line flushing. Like I said, he'll be getting 2 houses on Thursday. So today's Tuesday. He just lit the heat today. We do a 48-hour preheat. Not a lot of heat running today. Even with having the indoors on that house open, and I even turned the fan on just to have some air movement, get some fresh air in there, and also to have a little airflow for us. The front was like 87 degrees when I went to turn my heat back on. So won't take a lot to heat those houses back up to 91, 92 degrees. We're up at Eric's farm now, about to do the same. And one of the last things we do before we get birds is flush our water lines out. Eric's actually flushing these out here.
It's just a bypass to turn it on high pressure.
So that yellow thing is a regulator, and there's a knob on the bottom. You can control the water pressure in these water lines, but that piece on the side that Eric was turning will basically bypass that and turn these on high pressure. And what that does is it just runs cool water in these water lines. There's probably a little bit of leftover water from when we had chickens last flock. That water, this time of year gets very hot. The houses have also been heating up to 92 degrees for 2 days. So any water in there could be hot. It's possible there could be some debris or trash in there too. So what that does is that puts high pressure water going through those water lines, and I'll show you where it comes out. We've got fans running back here, so hopefully y'all can hear me okay. So these water lines have what we call a flush kit on them. At the very end, there's this piece here, there's a hose. Follow that hose up. So it's basically like a garden hose. The high pressure causes water to come all the way down to the end. It goes up and out. And so what we do is we have like a flexible garden hose here. We zip tie it once. So there's a zip tie around the hose and then another loose one here. That allows the hose to travel up and down when you have a catch out, but it keeps that hose kind of tucked up out of the way. So that way we're not having to get another thing out of the way before the catchers come in. But you see right here. So Eric's getting some fresh water run in there. We have those on each side. We flush ours. So there's 2 water lines on the north, 2 water lines on the south. So we do a north and south at the same time. Since these 2 water lines here are both hooked into the same hose, and you can't tell outside which one will be running, we do them one at a time so that when you see water coming out of the end of the house, then you're flushing that water line on out. And we probably let it run once you see consistent water coming out for another 15 or 20 seconds just to make sure. Those are also really helpful if you ever charge your lines in between flocks. Sometimes we'll put some cleaners in there. You let them sit for 24 hours, but it just makes it real easy. The old style, we used to have to go down with a bucket, 5-gallon bucket, take a cap off where I just showed you that hose was hooked, and then you basically just let water run into the 5-gallon bucket, swap it out. So these flush kits make it much easier. We're still waiting on the truck to come up to Eric's farm. They brought out 1 house of mine, and then Eric's birds were also in the same truck. So the truck driver's got to go back and load the empty crates back in the back of the truck. Then he'll drive up here, take the forklift off, bring Eric's birds in, and we'll get those dumped. But here shortly, once we get all these birds dumped, I'm gonna go back down to my farm and I'm gonna show y'all how we monitor the chickens. I may have touched on this before, but we have what's called a communicator that hooks into our rodent controllers that basically you can check every single house, my 4 houses as well as Eric's 4 houses. So we got all of our chickens in for today. Eric was just shy of getting 2 full houses. I think he likes maybe like 3,000 birds, but they'll bring those. On Wednesday, they don't deliver chickens. So today's Tuesday when we're getting 6 houses, and then they'll pick back up Thursday morning and finish him up. So he'll be split over 2 days. But we got all of our paperwork and everything, and I'll show you. We grow for Pilgrims, and they've started doing this paperwork to track what everybody gets on their farm. It's got the breed of the birds, as well as the number of head placed with that breed, as well as the breeder age, and then also if there are any known health impairments with them. So mine are no health impairments. I did get a bunch of 26, well not a bunch, but I got some 26, 26, 34, 40, 40, 30, 30. So what that number tells you there is how old was the hen that laid that egg. And if you know anything about chickens, they typically start laying eggs in the 24-week range, 24, 25. And so a chick from a 26-week-old hen is not really ideal. If you compare the eggs, the egg is much smaller than, say, a 40 or a 50-week. So those birds, you can always tell when you're dumping them, they just feel so much lighter. It's not as bad this time of year, but if you get a lot of 26-week-old hen flocks in the wintertime, it's not ideal. You're going to wind up losing a bunch of those. You're going to wind up culling a bunch of those out. It's basically a runt of a chicken, but they still hatch them. They still bring them out. I still have to compete, but luckily I don't have a whole lot of them, but I did get some of those. When you get a whole house of them, or even more than a whole house, that's when it just is really not ideal. But we also get these mortality cards. So it has the hen flock and also the hen source on here, and then the numbers. So I'll go through and hang one of those in each of my houses, and then each day I'll go through and record my mortality. That way we know how many birds to start with, and we know pretty much how many birds I should be sending out 35 days from now. I'm gonna go back through and do some more checks. We just barely avoided a storm. It was actually thundering some when we were finishing up Eric's chicken houses, but I believe that storm stayed south of us. We've had a crazy couple weeks with storms. There's been a lot more storms than usual. May has been a lot wetter than normal, and June is starting out that way also. One more thing I'll mention, I don't really talk about many different products, but you know, after dumping chickens, sweating, if I'm working in the hayfield, I've found these electrolytes, Element, LMNT, and not something you want to take every day, but if you're doing a lot of sweating and you need some extra electrolytes, I recommend these. They don't have any sugar. It's hard to find electrolytes that don't have sugar. You know, everybody's like, oh, drink a Gatorade. Gatorade's packed full of sugar. Same way with like Pedialyte. I don't really understand why there's so much sugar in it. But these, I really like these. I don't drink them every day, but on a day like today, we're in there working, dumping chickens, 92 degrees, sweating. Afterwards, I mix one of these packets in some water, and just helps me, you know, replenish my electrolytes. But I reached out to them actually to see if they would come on and be a sponsor. I've been drinking these off and on for about a year now. They said they weren't taking on any new sponsors, but if y'all have any connections with Element, send them my way. But I'm gonna go back in here and look at these birds. After, it's a little salty. I mix mine in 32 ounces of water. The less water, obviously, the saltier it's gonna be. Let's go see what the birds are up to. So far, I've been pleased with how my litter turned out. If y'all saw my last video, We're talking about Eric went through and did some crusting. All I did was roll my litter and roll it back out. So there's a chance I may have some ammonia pop up. Luckily, it's fairly warm right now. We're able to run a good bit of fans without having to run a bunch of heat. These birds look nice and comfortable. You can see where the birds are grouping up. Those are my feed trays. And that's why we put those feed trays out, because they're less likely to get in these feed pans for the first day or so. And so we just supplement a little bit, try to give us a little extra edge. You know, if you're competing against a grower that doesn't have any feed trays out, hopefully my birds get a little bit better start, especially those 26-week-old hen flocks. You know, maybe they'll get a little extra feed and be able to compete. So here we are, nice and warm. And speaking of competing, if you're not familiar with the chicken business, when I say competing, when you sell your chickens in a week, you sell with about 8 or 10 other farms, and you're competing against them. And some people make more money or less money based on how my birds do. Like if Eric and I are selling in a week, I may make more money if my birds do better, and he may make less money if his birds don't do as good, or vice versa. But they're actually doing away with all that. It's called the tournament pay. And so they're going to square foot pay, which will be interesting to see. I don't know how it's going to go. I feel like it could be a good move for people like myself. But again, it'll be interesting to see what the chicken business holds, you know, in about a year. So I'm gonna take y'all across now to my control building. This is where I've got my generator, water stuff, you know, comes in and out, medicators, junk room, office. Got a recliner in there. Sometimes during the catch out, may go prop up in the recliner for an hour or so and rest. So in here, I've also got a laptop. And if y'all seen videos before, maybe y'all know that I have Starlink internet at my house. I also put something in that sends the Starlink signal from there. It comes in here, and then it gives me Wi-Fi down here. And it allows me to run, we call it the communicator. It's made by Rotom. Let me get it pulled up here and I'll turn it around and show you. All right, so what we've got here, the screen gets a little dirty. I don't know how much of that y'all can see. Might need to just take a picture. But there are 8 houses total, my 4 and Eric's 4. It tells me all my temperature zones. If any heat's running, fans are running, cooling pads, the air vent position, the vents on the side, tunnel curtain, all this information. You can scroll down and there's more: lights, water, feed, auger. I'm gonna scroll back up. So this program right here, we had it installed, and then I forget all the details. We've had it like 10 years now, but there's a piece that's added into your controllers. All the controllers have to be wired back to this building here. Luckily, we had a phone line buried from my farm to Eric's farm. We were able to tap into that and hook them all together. When we bought this communicator, I believe it was like a $5,000 purchase, which we were like, man, that's a lot of money to spend. But it's probably been one of the best investments we've made, because from that, with having internet down here, as long as our internet is up and working and I have phone service, I can access that computer from anywhere. That's our alarm system. So if an alarm goes off, it'll start calling out of this building. So we have an internet phone through Magic Jack. So there's a phone number. So if the alarm goes off, I get a phone call on my cell phone, I answer it, and it'll say, you know, auger 1 in overtime, house 4, or low pressure, house 2, or low temp, high temp, you know, whatever the alarm is. But so this is on my phone here. This is the remote desktop, and so I've accessed that computer in there. And from here, as long as all the switches on my controller are turned to auto, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here you can see these are all my tunnel fans. Flip these switches down, they're on auto. Same thing with my heat, lights, feed, all that stuff is switched to auto. So I can, from my phone, turn any one of these fans on as long as it's on auto, the breaker's on and the switch is on in the back. Same thing, I can adjust my temperatures, I can change vent settings. There's just so much you can do. We mainly use it like if we're in the hayfield and it's hot. We can monitor the temperatures of the houses front to back. We can see if our tunnel curtain's opening. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can see. So that's our alarm system, but also our way that we can access everything from away from the farm, and it has been such a lifesaver. If at 3 in the morning a fan shutter blows off in the back of one of my chicken houses, which does happen from time to time, and it creates a low pressure scenario or a low temperature, it's going to call my phone. As long as I hear my phone ring, don't have it on vibrate, then I'll know what's going on. A lot of times I can log in from my house on my phone, and I can see what's going on, and sometimes I can make adjustments from there. Sometimes I actually have to come down here, but it really is a lifesaver. If you have the Rotom controllers, I highly recommend getting the communicator. You do have to have internet, and like I said, you do have to have those controllers wired into it unless something's changed over the 10 years since we bought that. But if you have any questions about it, that's our alarm system, and that's our lifesaver. Time to tuck these babies in for the night. It's always weird going from not having to check birds at night to those first couple nights where you're like, oh yeah, gotta check birds. I usually like to do my final check of everything around 8, maybe 9 o'clock. Sometimes it depends on the temperature or what's going on, or if I'm at a baseball game, that sort of thing. But getting these birds tucked in. Lights will be turning off before long. Hope y'all have enjoyed the video. I'm gonna try to do some more videos in the chicken houses throughout this flock, so y'all be sure and subscribe if you haven't. Give us a thumbs up, and y'all come back for the next one.